This week, Drew Nelson and I discuss with the unclear picture of when this pandemic will actually end. We all need to focus on what we've learned from this difficult year and what our industry can do to improve its business in the future from the pandemic. Basically, it's a pandemic sales plan. In the second segment, we have Sticks of the Week, and we are sure Nelson has some news, and we'll have some commentary on that along the way. Stogie Geeks, as Nelson and I are live from Breakwater's Cigar and Whiskey Lounge here in Middletown, Rhode Island. Stogie Geeks is remote, and Stogie Geeks episode 359 starts right now.
This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geek Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. Joe and I are already silly.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Hosempa, a.k.a. Joe Hollywood, is here with me in studio.
I'm fired up. So we also have remote Drew, who is remote over in Texas. Look at you. You got some Stogie Geek swag going on in the background.
Got my banner.
Where are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm all set up for the Stogie Geek mobile lounge.
Confidence. Confidence isn't walking into a room with your nose in the air, thinking you're better than anyone else. It's walking into a room and not having to compare yourself to anyone in the first place.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Stogie Geeks, welcome to episode 359. I am your host, Joe Hosempa. Nelson and I are remote at Breakwater's Cigar and Whiskey Lounge here in Middletown, Rhode Island, enjoying the spring-like weather here, testing out some new equipment, and excited about today's topic. But before we get to today's topic, I want to introduce our little dark-haired kid from Texas, Mr. Drew Galvin.
What's happening, fellas? While you guys are... What's happening? What's going on?
What's up, man? That's crazy. You and I have the same hat on, and we haven't even talked in a week.
Nope. Isn't that... I'm telling you, dude, Batman and Robin, here we are, bro.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Luke Skywalker. We need
ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege and an honor to introduce to you the internet sensation, Mr. Nelson DeMello.
The internet sensation.
Hey, what's going on, Stogie Geeks? Happy to be remote today from Breakwaters. This is awesome. I always like when we're off location and doing it from a lounge. Super cool. Shout out to my Ashhole Cigar Club friends. I finally got a shirt, and I hope you're all listening. This is going to be a great show. Joe's got a great topic today. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew, at our last episode, I wanted to touch upon this, but we clearly ran out of time and whatnot. The Tobacco Business Magazine produced a article on their website. I'm going to share it to my Twitter at Joe Hosempa. And it's called A Pandemic Sales Plan. And I'm going to take you through the article, and then sure. I would like to expand on the article because I think it leaves out some very important elements. I think it leaves out some very important concerns that some of the retailers have been emailing about. And I think it sounds good. It's one of those ideas that sound good on paper, but some of the advice that is given might not reflect what the retailers have been through and what the manufacturers have been through and how they can, of course, get along. So we'll do that in the first segment, and then in the second segment, we'll have news and sticks there. So Stogie Geeks, thank you for tuning in. We support, email all of your complaints to Nelson@StogieGeeks.com, and away we. Yes, it's cool. I like it. So basically, it just basically says that, obviously, it's going to start off as a little bit of Captain Obvious, right? 2020 was a year like no other. No one knows what the rest of 2021 will bring. We're at a point now where about 25% of the population, I think that's a pretty safe number, have been fully vaccinated. States across the United States are making great strides in getting the population vaccinated, having everything readily available. Things are starting to get to somewhat normal. I mean, this week was the first time that I had my son in the car and I ran errands and did dry cleaning. And why is that a big deal? Well, because now that my son's at a point where he wants to say hi to everyone and do that there, when I unroll the window, the dry cleaning was in the way. And I was like, wow, this really hasn't happened in like a year. So, things are starting to get to somewhat normal, kooky things. We can probably spend a little bit of time on that there. But yeah, I want to take the time out to say, like, what have we learned, right, with there? So obviously, it's pretty unclear as to when it will end. I remember when Drew and I did a segment when we were on lockdown, I said easily fall of 2021. It doesn't look like that I'm far off from that. But we always say, well, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. Like, number one, define normal in the premium cigar industry, right? Because, if we talk about back orders, like that was a pre-COVID problem, right? If we talk about limited supply, it really depended on the company and stuff like that. So, but the article focuses on adaptability and diversification, which are really, really key. Also, it makes reference to creating online sites. I've beat that to death, so we all know what that entails. In the beginning of the pandemic, they offered curbside pickups. Maybe some did delivery directly to customers' homes and stuff like that. The industry had to adjust to meet the needs of the customers. If we're looking at the numbers, cigar numbers are up, even with COVID, as far as imports. So, all of these come to mind there. So I want to take some time and do some reflections with both Nelson and Drew. You guys can do rocks, paper, scissors as to who goes first and talk about like where we were and where we are. And then we'll get into some of the advice that the article gives. And then we'll get into some of the advice that I think that it's fledgling within the article.
So, Drew, I don't know if you mind. I want to respond to something that Joe just said as part of his intro there, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you said something about getting back to normal, but I think we can all agree, whether it's the cigar industry or any industry, there's going to be a new normal, right? I think there were lessons learned, and this almost forced a lot of industries to rethink how they're operating. And, to Joe's point, it's pretty amazing that during the pandemic, the cigar community didn't decrease; it actually increased, and the industry actually fared pretty well. I mean, they still had manufacturing and growing issues initially, right, with the farming, and we may see the results of that now because it's the lagging indicator, right? Like they had the old tobacco, and now they're hopefully growing new stuff, but not as much as they had. But the point is, I think there's going to be a new normal, and as we get deeper into this tobacco business article, I think we'll start to unpack a lot of that. And I agree with Joe. There were things in there that you're like, is this reality, right? And I don't know if that's where you were going, Joe, but some of these things didn't seem like they really hit on the reality of where we are. So I guess overall what I'm saying is there's no normal. I don't think that we're never going to get back to normal. I think it's just, when do we arrive at the new normal? And that even may take some time to get to where the dust has settled.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a number of retailers ramped up their events, but was that enough? Go ahead, Drew.
Drew?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are cutting in and out. Anyhow, no, like you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a change in the model of business for sure. Uh, I know from my first-hand experience with Nomi over there at Prestige Cigars and Coffee Bar, it's about having a a box of different avenues to deliver the product to serve the lounge members and whatnot, and then on top of that, offer any other programs that are um, that keeps everybody within safe distance and whatnot. But yeah, the article itself, I read it, and then of course I didn't take any notes, but still, there were some things in there that for sure that as we spoke about the industry, it's what 30-40 years behind in times. So a lot of the brick and mortar shops, I pretty much hope that they understood that they needed a online website presence. They need to have diversity in the way they're going to deliver the product or offer their wares to their customers, to their customer base and whatnot. So, but yeah, I feel the same way. I think the same way. And we're still looking at a bunch of different other things too. As we go through this conversation, I'll bring up some points on that.
Mm-hmm. Like, just to tail end on the virtual events, right? Sure, it increased sales, but what's that compared to? We never had a pandemic, and basically any money coming into any virtual event would be good money because it's a pandemic, right? And so, what did it increase sales? Yes. Was it enough? I don't know. I mean, to get the like a lot of super cool ideas have come out. Conferences have went online. We've become closer to the manufacturers in their story from Facebook and social media. There's not so much a lot of cigar activity there on Twitter, but Facebook, huge. A bunch of quote unquote podcasts have sprouted out to build more awareness for the cigar community. Some people got into cigars because they had a chance to kind of slow down their lives and whatnot. But was it enough? I'm not too convinced. Numbers wise, it did help, but was it enough? I mean, if it was regular times, they might have been doing more cigar sales. I also think consumer behavior changed because instead of people coming into a cigar shop, say 3 times a week, maybe it was once a week or once a month or every other week or whatever, but they bought more cigars because we never really knew like when we would come back. So every time we had a chance to go out, we never really knew like when we would come back.
Yeah. I was talking to a couple of members this past week at the lounge, and I asked them, how was the experience last year for them? And they were pretty much on point what you just said. I mean, they a lot of them went to memberships, the memberships like, some of the mailing ones that I belong to. And then, but they really preferred coming to the lounge, touching, feeling, kind of that kind of deal. And they're coming back, in full swing pretty quickly here in Texas anyhow, because we're opened up, because we don't have COVID in Texas, according to our governor. But nonetheless, I mean, yeah, the consumer behavior. I know one thing Nomi and I talked about was, that allowed us to really expand our customer base, as well as, being able to use some of the smaller boutique brands, introducing those one at a time versus trying to bring in a bunch of things in our shelves because there were some shortages with some of the more popular brands, or we had to wait for the shipment for those brands to come in a little bit longer than anticipated. But along those lines, like I'm right now I'm working on a newsletter. I told him, I said, I want to do a newsletter for our lounge. We don't have that. We need to do that. And then that way we can, introduce things to our lounge members and our potential new customers. When they walk through that door, we give them this copy of this newsletter, trap their information, not trap it, but, ask for their information, email and whatnot. And then email them a monthly member, kind of a, what's up, newsletter. So things like that. And I'm sharing that with other people in the industry as well. These kind of things are going to help you pivot, to the new norms, as we speak of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the email newsletter to your customer database for sure. Because number one, if something new and hot comes, you can instantly notify someone there, but also keeps them abreast as to like you, the tobacconist, you, the retail shop, generally appreciate the actual customers, and you're giving them information and a reason to stop by the shop and a reason to rekindle themselves with the shop when they feel comfortable. I know some places are more on lockdown than others. But I've been using that technique, God, at least 14 years now, and it truly does work. And I can tell you from one of my customers that when he sends out a weekly newsletter, the sales spike up online immediately. So I can almost guarantee that if they were to begin doing that, and for a local retailer who's not really online, doesn't really know. You can email me at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. I will be happy to give you an introduction as to how that works, because you can kind of start an e-newsletter without a website presence.
So that's interesting you said that, because I was going to ask you, Joe, did the in-store sales also go up? Because you mentioned that the online sales went up, but did the in-store sales go up?
No.
Okay,
no.
That's interesting.
I can honestly say, and the company I'm referencing is WilkiePipeTobacco.com, right? And you can go there, you can get cigars, you can get pipe tobacco, you can get pipes, you can get accessories, etc., etc. And when the online presence is a quicker response, because you're saying, hey, we're going to feature this tobacco and this pipe, or we just got a line of new pipes in, or whatever he's part of the Limited Cigar Association there too, so he features the monthly club, and boom, instantaneously email goes out, cigars go off the shelf, he's putting them in packages, sending them out the door, adios. And it's another form of income besides passive income. I think a lot, and we're going to get into that a little bit more detail when the article gets into actually tips and tricks as to survive the pandemic, as we round the bases as to where we were, as to where we are in this year. But it's like one of those things where, you got to keep your audience riveted, and you have to be a source of information, because especially in this day and age, they can scroll the internet like their favorite manufacturers. They might not need the tobacconist, and then go online, and guess what? If they go online to some of the bigger retailers, that brick and mortar can miss out.
Right.
So I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, no, I was just going to, say that I know with my newsletter that I'm working on now, I'm keeping it like at most a 15 to 20 minute time. Because one of the things that I was, sharing with some of the other people that are helping me put this together is that, we want to segment customer. We want to help the customer, the store, other, what do you call it? Like a cigar spotlight, do that. And then, some sale prices for cigars that we have in the shop, but, make it short, sweet, simple, but impactful, to your bottom line.
Here's my suggestion, right? Feature a feature in the newsletter on a monthly basis or weekly basis, or whatever the cadence is that you want to get it out with, but feature like a member who's doing some super cool stuff. And it's not like, oh, this member bought 14 boxes, he's our number one guy or gal. No, it's outside of here, they're doing this. this guy's a member, and I'm making it up, of an Elks Club and raise money for charity or doing that stuff, because then it brings in other people to let them know that, like, they're going to be joining something special.
Right. That's a good idea.
Yeah, just like, feature, or if anybody's trying, we always know the people, they have fundraisers for people who are, God forbid, they get illnesses or, do something in the community or whatever. Someone who's doing good and whatnot, because now those are going to be internal champions to tell people about the newsletter, because they're, quote unquote, featured in the newsletter. And it also keeps the patrons on best behavior. Not that you want a bunch of robots for customers, but you want them to feel like they're part of something special. That's why most of us who frequent lounges stay frequently at a specific lounge, especially Nelson and I. Within a half-hour radius, we can go to 41 different cigar shops. I can count on one hand where I hang. You know what I mean? It's because I like to be part of whatever that organization is.
So, you hit on two things. One, with regards to the article, one of the things I thought was lacking there was this engagement that we're talking about. Like, it didn't really get into increasing engagement with the customer, which before the pandemic you really wanted to do anyway. But they sort of that's kind of missing in their tips. But the other thing, and the reason I asked about the online, was I don't necessarily agree that a brick and mortar going online is the best. And if I'm jumping ahead into the article, Joe, please tell me. But in my opinion, a brick and mortar, you want ass in the seats. You don't want to make it that easy. If I owned a brick and mortar, I don't want people just to go online. Now, if I'm struggling, I can see you want whatever outlet you can. But you're going to sell more and build. Joe just hit on it. He can count on one hand how many lounges he goes to, right? You frequent those for a reason, right? There's an experience there. And I think that's, again, another thing that's not included in the article is that experience. So engagement and brick and mortar experience, I think, are two major things that they need to hit on. And I don't know that necessarily, I think online is nice, but I don't know that that's really like, hey, should be part of your business plan.
I strongly disagree, because when you just focus on all the nice feel, you limit yourself from a geographical area. When we're shipping stuff to Brazil, there's people who are never going to go into that brick and mortar. They live in Brazil. They like the product. It gets shipped to them. So again, it's a way of generating another form of revenue. For example, it's almost like if you have a deli, or if you have an ice cream shop, or if you have a cigar shop. Let's talk about the business model there, right? If you have a deli in a non-tourist town, you focus on people of the town.
Right.
But if you have a deli or an ice cream shop or a cigar shop in a tourist town, you have two streams of income. You have your passive income, the people who come and visit that deli and are there for the week, and every year they make it a family tradition to eat at this deli or go there and do that. And I'm talking about destinational places: Hilton Head, Miami, Myrtle Beach, Drewstown in Texas. You know what I mean? Like they have different forms of income. And if you don't believe me, why would a football team or a professional sports team build a stadium, and then 4 years later, there's now businesses around that stadium? Why does the casino move into vacant land, and then all of a sudden, 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, driving up to that casino, it's now, you're not driving through woods to get to the casino. You now have strip malls and places to go shopping and places to eat. And so you got to generate those two forms of income. And I don't want to go totally poo-poo on the article. I just think that it just gives a one-dimensional business plan when there are multiple factors.
Yeah,
and you don't want to alienate any audience.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not saying don't do online. That's not what I said. I just said it's not as important, right? And I guess my perspective was, and it's not a debate, obviously, we have our different opinions, but I want to build a foundation. If I'm a shop owner, I want to build a foundation. I want to know I have people that come regularly to my shop. And I think I agree it's a revenue stream, but I want to build my in-house revenue stream first, establish it, and then, yeah, sure, go online. Absolutely. But I just don't know that that's the solution for coming out of the pandemic per se. Because I don't think a lot of, in my opinion, not a lot of people go to brick and mortar online stores to order stuff. They'll go to like Cigar International or JR's or Thompson or Famous Smoke, whatever, right? There's like bigger competitors out there for the online market, I guess is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand what you're saying, but I 100% disagree. Because look, Underground Cigar Shop, perfect example. I've bought boxes off the gentleman. His name's Don. He lives in Texas.
I have too.
Okay. The odds of us walking in there are probably, and the next time we make it to Texas, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
going to be on the list. But yet we've given him money. But yet, if he closes brick and mortar, he'd be fine. And if he closed his online, he'd still be fine. You need a balance of both.
Yeah.
In this day and age, you need a balance of both. I'm not saying you got to develop both the brick and mortar presence, but you got to develop some sort of an online presence, because cigar consumers are going to throw a cigar into a Google search, and you better play. Whether you're playing against CI or Holtz or a small batch or whoever, you have to play in that game.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Exactly.
Am I on mute? Those are all valid points. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just had a different perspective. Drew, I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, from my experience, or from our experience here with our lounge, we want to, and we're building it, and we're doing all the things that are are in our power, keywords and just
Optimizing.
Different kind of promotion. Yeah, exactly. Optimizing, doing the promotions and whatnot, working close with our cigar representatives to, do giveaways, but still keep the audience engaged that are not there. Because if you go to our Google review page, you'll see that we get people from all over the United States that are here in DFW to come and do business for a day or two. They walk into our cigar lounge, and I can't tell you how thankful that they actually take a few minutes to do a review on our cigar lounge, and it's awesome. So to that, we owe it to them. We owe that to all the consumers that that will read these reviews and say, you know what, I want to do business, or I want to be part of that. So it's just, as Joe said, there's different revenue streams there, and we're going to go after those revenue streams. We definitely are.
Right.
And whatever it is, that it's not the flavor of the day, it's more of the flavor of the future. That's what we're looking at.
Right. So now that we're a year into the pandemic, right, now we get headlines, right? The industry is continuing to see some periodic inventory shortages. There's some stuff on back order. The manufacturers are saying that, they were forced to close factories in such a short amount of time that there was kind of a gap in production. Now that they've come with the ease of restriction, there was smaller workforces because of social distancing guidelines. And so it's like, okay, I get all of that, but cigars on back order isn't a COVID thing. It's a common thing from at least 1997 that I know of. Right. So, as I was, relating to how cigars on back order would affect me. So, it's like, okay, so the article gives some guidelines as to what we can do now. And I want to take the time out to go bullet point to what these guidelines are, because I do think that they are super important. But I I would have added a little bit more, and that's where our commentary would go. The first one is to be more. This is for the manufacturers to be more strategic in their purchasing when the manufacturers are not able to fulfill supply to meet the demand. So in other words, if they want to order 10 boxes of X amount or a combination of 10 boxes, to be more strategic, like maybe you should order 20.
Right.
And it's like, or even if it's 12, right? Or even if it's 10% more, like it's 11, right? Like sometimes, like businesses could be holding on by a thread before the pandemic.
Oh yeah, you see that rampant in the restaurant businesses. You know, a lot of them they closed, the mom and pop ones. You know, they're just hanging on by a thread. And same thing with some of the you know, like bars and whatnot. I mean, it's a day-to-day business.
Mm-hmm. Here's my favorite one. Instead of buying inventory for just 1 month at a time, consider buying larger quantities when the product is available.
So something on that, and I think it applies to both bullets that you just read, right? Which is, how many times have we talked to a retailer and you're like, I ordered 20 boxes and I got 5?
Since 1997 that I know of.
Right? So how does that work when you have, you know, that, to your point, this is decades of history of not being able to get what you actually ordered. So how are you supposed to strategize around that? Right? You can have a strategy, but 9 out of 10 times it's not going to pan out because of the history of delivering what you ordered.
See, you bring up a good point that I didn't think of, Nelson. I thought of it from the retailer's perspective. From the retailer's perspective, with what cash flow? Like, so in other words, you order 10 boxes every month, and you always have, and you squeak by pre-pandemic, and then they're saying, okay, well, maybe now you should order 15. But then again, that's just of one manufacturer. Retailers have to deal with multiple vendors,
Multiply that.
multiple people, right? And then also, whatchamacallit, like, what if they want to use the extra 5 for another brand to keep the shelves full? And then there's another argument. They can buy the same product from another vendor, and it doesn't have to be directly with the vendor. It could be with a distributor. So it's like
it will limit. You just brought up another point, which is, now if I invest that money, it's gone. Now I don't have the flexibility to go and get another brand. Like something picks up, like, because I think it mentions there more than 30 days out, right? Wasn't that the suggestion?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So if there's something else that comes out that gets released, now my money's tied up in stock for something else that's just sitting in my humidor, and now I don't have those funds to bring maybe what my customers want. But you raised another good point, which was, this is compounded by you're dealing with multiple manufacturers.
Right. Would you like me to continue on, Drew, or do you want to just elaborate a little bit more on this?
No, go ahead. I'm thinking. I'm putting thoughts together.
Here's my second favorite one. Buy more items when they are available for a deal. A deal, quote unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only will you save money, increase profit margins, but you'll also improve a long-term return on investment. What deal? What deal? Like what I want to say to the manufacturers, what deal? Like, what? Your first order is 20% off? Okay, cool. Thank you. What? You buy 10, you get 2? Like, 2 boxes isn't going to make or break a shop. Now, I get it. You can make more money. You can add the boxes. It's an $8 tip, but you're only giving them $200. They're buying thousands of dollars off of you. So what deal when they offer them? Because most of the deals across the manufacturer board are the same, roughly the same.
Well, and I don't know if you hit on this earlier, Joe, but this is retail centric, right? Would you agree? The article, it's retail centric. The
purpose of this article and me bringing it up is to 100% defend the retailers and hope that the manufacturers get creative in the process.
Okay, so to your point, I totally agree with you about the deal thing, right? We know, Joe knows probably 100 times more retailers than I know, but I know some retailers here in Rhode Island, and the deals are few and far between. In fact, I have a true story of, I won't name the brand, but a brand said, hey, we'll give you a deal, you buy X number of boxes. And you know what the deal was? They got 2 cigars, not 2 boxes,
Yes.
2 cigars. That was the deal.
I can one up you. I know a company that sent retailers a Dear John letter. We're sorry to inform you that there's a price increase, but here's 2 sticks to make up for it. 2 sticks. And they're $8 sticks. So here's $16. But by the way, it's going to cost you more in shipping. Plus, it's going to cost you more in pricing because of COVID and demand. We're going to raise our prices up.
But
although we're selling it to online vendors for $10 over box cost and pushing mad volume.
But I'm going to land my plane now. So where I was going, and the reason I wanted us to sort of level set and agree, this is an article that is retail-centric, that advice needs to go to the manufacturers.
Yes.
Right? This is only going to work if they start working with the brick and mortars and online retailers to give them better deals. If there's truly an issue with providing stock and inventory, like how do you entice the retail? Like I think, and we're probably going down a rabbit hole here, but I think in a lot of cases, cigar manufacturers feel like they have the power and like, hey, retailer, you're going to take my shit and you need me more than I need you, right? That's the impression I get. And I think it's mutual. I think they need each other. It's the symbiotic relationship they have. So, sorry, drinks are flowing.
I love when they try to do that to Nomi because he just ignores them and sends them on their way.
True.
Right, well,
here's what I think we're all saying. Why can't the manufacturers just be honest and just say, our product is good, your customers seek it, here's our pricing.
Right.
Just be honest. Like, why can't we all be honest with each other? Like, it's like the restaurant that, the restaurant business. Oh, well, if you order more tartar sauce, we'll give you a discount on fish. And then you're like, but I don't sell fish, I sell steak. No, you don't understand. The tartar sauce adds to the flavor of the fish, and you're like, I don't sell fish. I'm a steakhouse. No. But the tartar sauce, it brings out the tang in the fish. And you're like, I don't sell fish. Because every brick and mortar that I speak to on a frequent basis all tell me the stories. Like, I cannot believe this. And they all give me the back order stories, and they all do that. And it's like, and I understand, but it's like, they talk about the deal when they offer more deals. Like the only true deal maker, in my opinion, was Drew Estate before they got acquired. So the ones that when they got really started, right? They got really started. Like, they were true deals. Even from when I owned the shop, like Drew Estate back in the day, were pre 2018, were like super cool to like deal with. And as a retailer, you wanted to. And I don't know, man, a lot of the retailers are getting really, really frustrated with the back order story. And COVID is like putting salt on the wound, right? Because they're already a little bit hurting or a little bit concerned about lounge activity, which Nelson was at, and you, Drew, we're talking about. They're a little bit concerned. You got one eye on the pandemic, you got one eye on QuickBooks, you got one eye on what your disposable income is and what you can actually spend for product. And in walks a deal. Well, if you buy 10, I'll give you 2. Well, okay, like, cool, but like, you're really only giving me like $250, unless you're like Davidoff, you're giving me $400, and it's like, as a business owner, it's like, oh wow, I'm losing money. Yeah, I don't need to make this $400 profit on this. I need to make a $4,000 week. You know what I mean? Because I have bills to pay. He or she has bills to pay, and I think we're going to spend a little bit more time focusing on that. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I mean, that's, we I don't get involved with the purchasing over at the shop. That's all Nomi and but he does tell me some of the, shares with me some of the concerns about some of the brands that we're trying to bring in, and talking with the reps or whatnot. And so yeah, he'll bring up some points to me that, he's just like, I'd rather just bring in somebody else, and if this is the best they can do, because down the street from us we have our competitor, and
Sure, right.
And
we're not even talking
be,
about like retailers that are in the same town of other retailers. We're not even going to go there today. But that's like another issue, because then you have to talk about like the differentiation of the lounge, which is more what Nelson was in store with as opposed to online. Here's my favorite one. This bullet point reminds me of Joe Rogan commentating a UFC fight, right? Remember that margin improvements are crucial if you're seeing a decrease in sales, pandemic or not. That's like Joe Rogan. Oh my God, he hit him with the right. Yeah, I see the bloody nose, bro. Like, I'm good. Like, Joe Rogan is like a Captain Obvious when
Captain Obvious.
He's Captain Obvious, like Captain Obvious. So I'm going to repeat that, right? Remember that margin improvements on the cigars are crucial if you're seeing a decrease in sales, pandemic or not. Like,
I can't believe they even wrote that, to be honest with you. I can't believe it.
Oh, would you like me to continue?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Oh, wait, there's more. There's two more bullet points. Then we're going to get into our add-ons, which I think are a little bit more realistic, right? When you're consistently having trouble getting a specific item due to inventory shortages, consider temporarily replacing that item on your shelf with something similar. I don't think I can repeat that without laughter. Like, Isn't that like cigar shop owner 101? Like, hey, I'm like, we all have it. Drew, you work in a cigar shop. Nelson's had experience with covering for humidor shifts and stuff like that. I've owned and worked in a cigar shop, right? Like, I'm looking for the blah, blah, blah. For example, cigar aficionado, pick a year, any year. I'm looking for the cigar of the year. Well, we don't have that, the shop says. But let me introduce you to this. That happens every day, all day, in every brick and mortar.
Right.
So consider replacing the item. How about consider getting the item? Anyway.
I mean, I'm speechless at some, again, Captain Obvious kind of thing. Why? And you know what I wish we had done, and hindsight's 2020. I wish we had circulated this article to retailers across the country that all three of us know, and get their feedback on what they thought of these tips. Because I would wager, seeing something like that, they'd have the same reaction. Like, they would chuckle, saying, "Well, hold on. If I have an empty shelf, sure, I will replace it with something else." Like, why would I need an article to tell me that? Tobacco business. I mean, and I'm not knocking them. I read them all the time, but it's a sort of a silly tip.
Well, here's my thing. I thought about that, Nelson, of circulating it. But I have a wonderful relationship with retailers who tell me everything because I tell everybody nothing. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And I know a lot of retailers who tell me stuff and they're like, use this for your show, but keep me out of it.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? They're like, use this letter that this cigar company X sent me, and take these 2 sticks because they're crappy, right?
But you didn't get it from me.
But you didn't get it from me. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I will do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why, like, a lot of retailers reach out to me and tell me stuff because, and the funny thing is, it's not just geographical. It's not just me hitting up the Rhode Island retailers. I have a lot of retailers out of state who email me and they're like, Joe, I caught an episode and man, like, it's amazing how, like some of them really like to go to IPCPR. And I can tell you I'm sorry, PCA now, right? And I can tell you 90% of them tell me they like to go because they are part of that group that can purchase it. They don't go for the deals. Because if they show up to IPCPR or PCA, they get the deals pre or post show anyway, right? So, because before, you used to have to show up to the show to actually get the deal. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. Everyone wants to question my integrity. People think I'm going poo-poo on the industry. No, I'm just asking from a business perspective, if IPCPR was a great show when it was there, and there was a time when you went to those shows to get exclusive deals if you were at the show. But now as a brick and mortar, I know countless cigar shop owners who go out there, but they've already they know what they can spend, how much money's in their checking. They save up money and piggy bank it for that event. They can buy them bulk and get deals. But they don't need that event to get the event deals. So that whole argument is going away. That's another show, right? That's a whole another show. That's what got me into some Facebook trouble with some other podcast hosts who think I shouldn't speak about PCA because I've never been to a PCA. But I'm saying cigar podcasts don't belong at a PCA. That's a special relationship between the manufacturer and the retailer owners, right? That's why in the name of IPCPR was retailers. It wasn't IPCPR for podcasts and retailers to go. It was freaking just retailers. That's a special relationship. And I think that, speaking of PCA, they got new leadership, and we'll see what comes out of that. That's another show as well. But all kidding aside, like, you know, you don't have to go. 90% of them go because they want to see Glenn Case from Christoph. They want to see Carlito Fuente because they have see him once a year or whatever, and they want to see blah 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 or Perdomo play the drums because he's super cool drum player. You know what I mean? And his boots super cool, and plus it's kind of an atmosphere. You know what I mean? And it kind of reminds me of a cybersecurity conference in a pre-COVID world when we used to fly to cybersecurity conferences for Security Weekly. Like, we know what the product does, but they're doing a demo, but now you can kick the tires in it. And what I like about it is now it gives the retailers to kick the tires because some of the manufacturers might not have sent them samples. Just a price sheet. Like, how do you buy something you haven't tasted? You know what I mean? We were at a cigar shop this morning, and the owner meets the sales rep, and sales rep's like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, we have this new cigar line coming out, but here's samples of the old cigar line." Well, where's the new one? I mean,
True story.
Now you got to follow the bouncing ball and listen to the whole show to find out who we're exactly talking about. Or hit rewind. Either way works.
I got to sell my old inventory so you can get a hold of the new inventory.
Right. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the last point they bring up is consider using alternative sources such as wholesalers for premium cigars during shortages.
Just to translate, he said sources, not sauces.
Oh yeah, for the right. But no, think about that. Consider using alternative sources for wholesalers for premium cigars during shortages. If the manufacturer is out of stock of products that you need, seek out a viable alternative source, such as large wholesalers, and they give a name that have inventory. So you're telling me to go to a distribution warehouse? Why would you send your customers something else? Hey, I'm looking for the Arturo Fuente Opus X. We don't sell those, but across the street there's a cigar shop. You should go there. Like,
yeah, but Joe, we experienced that this very morning, right?
Yeah.
In this shop, the owner was talking to us and saying he was having a challenge getting some brand, and he's like, I'm just going to go. I went to this other distributor, and they have it. He's like, I can order it and get it tomorrow. So it definitely happens. I mean, I still think that's one of those silly tips, like in any industry. If I'm selling a product and I can't get the product from one source, I'm going to go get it somewhere else if my people want it, my customers want it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So
And I can't see I can't even see like Nomi, for instance. I can't even see him wanting to develop another relationship with someone else when he's got his source. His source should be able to come through with what is needed for the lounge. So.
But in fairness,
Yeah.
Drew, if you can't get it consistently, aren't you going to try to find another source?
Myself, probably, but knowing my know me, probably not. he's just gonna rotate his the shelves and move along and keep going
Go
forward.
with what you know.
Yeah, because I mean, other than that, we don't know the quality. We don't know where it came from. I mean, there's just a lot of other variables there that we're not wanting to go through.
So, in lieu of all the Stogie Geeks listeners who sat through this long intro and article, what are some of the Stogie Geeks tips for the retailers to help them along the way? Drew, go ahead.
Yeah. So, what are some of the tips?
What bullet point would you like to add on?
Come back to me on that one.
Okay, great.
I got to think about it.
I mean, I'm going to go back, and maybe I'm cheating. I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning. For me, pre and post pandemic, it's engagement. I mean, the newsletter to me is just like a simple solution, and I don't personally know any shops that do that offer some kind of a newsletter. I know they exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, but the shops I frequent don't really have a newsletter.
Havana has one.
Oh, there you go. Well, clearly I'm not on it. But that type of stuff, right, is what they have to do. Doing events, that's a no-brainer. Doing events to bring people in. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm sure there are some creative ideas out there that like 1 or 2 or 5 shops are doing that no one's even thought of. But I think engagement for me is one of the biggest things. And loyalty, right? Because the engagement builds loyalty, and loyalty is what you want. Again, I'm going to go back to what Joe said. 41 shops in Rhode Island. I think he and I probably frequent the same 5 shops. Do I visit others here and there? Sure, I've gone to check them out, but my loyalty is at certain shops because I'm comfortable there. There's an experience there, and they're engaging there. So for me, engagement, I think, is one of the key things. Getting creative and figuring out new ways to engage cigar customers coming into your shop.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So a bullet point is the retailer needs to continue an expanded movement for engagement for his or her customers. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
You stole mine.
Go ahead, Drew. I what?
Well, no, what I'm saying is, I just said he stole mine. I was just thinking about all that before he started going. I'm like, oh, but yeah, no, from my experience, that's where it needs to be. We need to engage the customer, keep it rolling, keep it consistent, keep it fresh, and that's one thing that we talk about quite often is don't become stagnant. I think, we learned a lot. We really did. I mean, it was very valuable time that we went through last year with COVID being, here, in our world. And it just really brought to the forefront the lack of business evolvement that we had. So, and which is why we went ahead. I mean, he went ahead. Nomi said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and redesign my cigar shop. I'm going to make it fresh. I'm going to bring in nice interior. He did a lot of things that most cigar shops did not take advantage of. I mean, Underground, they did theirs too. They're 20 miles south of us, but yeah, I mean, down there, I mean, they moved their location. They got into a nice, larger location. So again, because I think both cigar shops saw that the need, and so we took advantage of that time to rake over our business model and then improve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, like, if cash flow is a little tight for some of the retailers, the beginning point parts, the bullet points might not be readily accessible. Order 2 months at a time, as opposed to 1 month at a time, or whatever their cadence is and whatnot. And my advice is pretty simple. Like, you can do a lot of super cool things in business without cash flow, right? It's called bootstrapping, right? Engage your customers, like Nelson says. Start a newsletter, like we articulated throughout this process in what Drew is doing, right? How about, like, have an internal staff meeting and have them pick 3 cigars a week and know all about their cigars that are on the shelf, so that now the brick and mortar becomes a resource. And by the way, if you work at a place for 6 months later, now all your staff is fully educated on your humidor. Tell your staff manager to say, hey, throw 3 sticks into Google when it's downtime. I'm paying you an hourly rate anyway. Learn a little and try to sell me. Like, if I was a shop owner and I had employees, I would say, like, take 3 sticks a week and sell me on these 3 sticks. Convince me not to get this and to get that. Convince me. And it keeps them on their toes. But it also engages the employees to let them know that they're part of it. It doesn't cost anything, because it's already operational cost, right? You throw it into Google. Chances are they have Wi-Fi, so they're already paying a flat rate for internet. You got the employee's hourly rate, so him or her is sitting there anyway. And during their downtime, take some time and do that. And it's amazing what you can do with a little bit of Google knowledge and putting your spin on that, and how you can influence a customer to turn them on to something else, especially if you don't have what they have, because it's on back order.
So 2 things.
Go
ahead.
No, I was going to say to that, I hope they already are doing it. I mean, that's something that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's a staple in our shop for sure. I mean, the staff is very knowledgeable. They understand, the differences, from our customers' palates, from what they're speaking, and listen and really focus on that customer's experience and being able to turn them out, or pivot them into a different direction. We're so fortunate. I mean, I'll tell you, we're so fortunate. We didn't suffer too much shortages. But I know our other competitors, like, they couldn't get Saka, they couldn't get some of the, Noel Rojas stuff. I mean, we were really fortunate that we did that early in the COVID stage, to where we didn't have to, worry about that so much. But still, nonetheless, this was a time for everybody to kind of regroup, refocus. Like you said, we would give them an opportunity to, sell us a cigar that they knew about, that they studied, they understood, and what matched my palate or Nomi's palate or somebody else's palate in our shop. So I hope that's already happening. If it's not, then yeah, that's probably why they're.
I don't think it's
where they're at.
So 2 things. One, that I think is a fantastic suggestion around having them sell to the owner cigars. Like, I think that's, and I don't think it's happening. I don't disagree that there are knowledgeable people in shops, but I definitely think and even for the knowledgeable people, I would say, yeah, once a week, sit down. I mean, that was such a simple thing, and I don't know any shop that does that. I'm sure it happens, but the shops I frequent and knowing the staff, I don't think that's happening. I think it's happening less than it should be, because I'm looking at Joe while I'm saying this, but that's a great idea. That was phenomenal, and it's free. It doesn't cost any money, right? But the other thing, and I was going to say exactly, I was thinking back, and I don't know why I went there, was Blockbuster Video, right? Do you remember going in a Blockbuster Video and it was like Zach's pick, Joe's pick, right? exactly what Joe said, right? Come in and, we're here, right? It's all Ronnie's pick, Rudy's pick, right? Whatever. And maybe it's 2 cigars, maybe it's 1 cigar, whatever it is. I've never walked in a shop and seen that. Never. Have you?
Havana used to do it when a former employee was there, and she would say like Joe's
Staff
pick,
picks?
she would put Stogie Geeks pick, and it would sell.
That's a good idea. I didn't even think about that.
Super cool.
Like
there you go.
Because it's like, because it builds awareness on both. Who the hell are the Stogie Geeks? Well, it's just a podcast. Oh, let me throw them into Google. You throw them into Google. You get our website. Oh, there's freaking 14 years of content on this website.
I'm gonna do that.
Of various hosts doing different things. Some episodes were longer than others. Some were better than others. But again,
There you go.
It's
go to Prestige and you'll get Drew's picks. Drew's Stogie Geeks picks.
That's right.
And all this stuff, like, because I look at it, when I look at this article, it's like, in retrospect, in economic theory, it makes sense. Yeah, sure, buy more when you have the chance. Yeah, sure, get a deal. Yeah, more. But with what money? We're coming out of a pandemic. So what can the retailers do to do that? Educate the staff. Make it more of a destination. Articulate that on your website, right? Pick a cigar of the month.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yep.
Or even a brand of the month.
A brand of the month.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Here's my next step. Here's my next bullet point. Unless you guys want to jump in on one. You have one yet?
No. The only thing I was gonna add is I think it needs to be more, and you kind of hit on this, Joe. More focused on clearing the shelves, right? How do I get these things off the shelves?
Right.
Right.
So I can order more and keep my business
I can order
going.
more, right? Because when you said the cash flow, it's the first thing I went to. All right, I want cash flow. Well, to get cash flow, I got to sell my products. Right. So my focus should be, what is my strategy for getting those sticks off the shelves? And it's things like you just said, right? And it's unbelievable, again, that more shops are doing some of the suggestions that have come out of this Stogie Geeks episode. Things like training the staff to sell cigars more, right? Things like the cigar of the month, things like the staff picks. Like, these are easy, simple, free things. Why aren't more retail? Joe, we should be consultants, retail consultants.
Yeah. Right? No, it's crazy. It's like, why don't you do that? Like, it just, another option. These sales reps come in with their quote unquote deals, right? I'll try not to laugh, right?
Right.
Why not have the sales reps take the time out to maybe educate the staff? Some of them do. Some of them really do. I can throw out names. I know locally, Nick Goss, broker, completely educates both the shop owner and the customers who want to listen and learn more about that. He does a great job with that. And I know that there's like cigar shenanigans. You can look them up, call Penny, ask her if I'm wrong. Like he does
lounge.
Call Ronnie here, Breakwater Cigar and Whiskey Bar, and Goss does a great job at educating the customer and about his product and his product line. And he's a broker. Some of the in-sales reps, like honestly, there's a sales rep. She wears a skirt. Like I don't even know if like they don't even know about their product. Like they don't even know. Like I mean, every time I see her, she's typing, she's texting somebody on the iPhone. And she's not talking to the customers. Like, it's crazy, right?
It's true. I've been a customer. I know exactly who Joe's talking about. And I've been a customer when she walked in. She's never spoken to me once. Not once.
Other in-house reps, right? Like, for example, not going poo-poo, but sponsor of the show, JC Newman, local rep for Arturo Fuente. Like, they come in, they talk to the owner, they don't spend time with some of the patrons. And I know we can't pass out cigars anymore. There are laws against that. Some shops like it, some shops don't like it. It's come up on multiple Stogie Geeks shows in the past, either with me as a host or any of the previous hosts. But it's like, like, we're ultimately, like, we're going to a shop to learn more. You know what I mean? We don't go to our auto mechanics when our car's not broken to be. How does that? Tell me about that combustible engine and how that works again. So if I hit the gas pedal, it's gonna go faster. That's crazy. Like you like now there are some people who do visit mechanic shops who want to start a shop or a mechanic and want to learn more, going through an apprenticeship. But like, and then they're like, wow, I really like that shop because I met the rep. How many cigar people do a promotion? Oh well, meet the rep for an event, and he or she is going to be pouring whiskey. Who cares? The bartender pour whiskey. I want to learn more about the cigars.
Right.
It does matter. I mean, you know, there's a local guy here, John from he does Alec Bradley, and that man sits down, smokes with you, tells you about the cigar. I mean, he groomed me to like Alec. I try more Alec Bradleys because of him. That's a true story.
Yes.
Like I give Alec Bradley more attention because that rep sat down with me and actually gives me the background and educates me about the tobacco blend, and it matters. And I think to the average cigar smoker, they appreciate that. They want that knowledge.
Right.
And they don't, you know what I mean? And it, again, I'm going to go back to, I don't think businesses in general, or some do, loyalty is huge, and that builds loyalty. It builds brand loyalty, brick and mortar loyalty, because they had the rep in. And that goes back to me. It's all about engagement. I think that's the secret sauce. I really do. Engagement builds loyalty, builds a consistent customer base, and there you have your revenue.
Like if I owned a brick and mortar shop and we
So
were
you can
doing an
get the
event
deals.
with a local rep, right? I would give the rep time for 15, 20 minutes to say, everyone, my name is John. I want to thank you for coming. I had the chance to go to the Alec, we're going to use John from Alec Bradley Factory, right? I had the chance to go to Alec Bradley Factory, and let me tell you about the care to detail that the workers do, or whatever takeaway it was. Let me tell you how beautiful the factory is. Let me tell you how well organized the factory is. Let me tell you about some of the future blends that we're working on for the factory, or for a product that's coming out. Let me tell you a little bit of secret sauce of what's coming out this July, you know, what's coming out in the fall or whatever. I think people would eat that up. It's only a quick 10 minutes as opposed to, but they don't even do that anymore. It's like the end. Did you ever watch the movie Casino? It's like the end of the casino. Like when everything goes to crap. You know what I mean? Like you order room service and you're lucky you get it by lunch. Like, you know, that's one of the quotes. And it's like, it's just watered down. And it's just like, you know, who wants to meet the rep if the rep doesn't have anything to bring to the table? Now, all of the in-house reps have had an opportunity, unless he or she is very new to the company, to visit the factory. That's true orientation.
First of all, I just want to say, Joe, I've appreciated all your analogies. This is like the analogy episode. The tartar sauce is number one in my book. That was the best analogy.
I sell fish. I don't sell fish. I'm a steakhouse, you know.
You know, but
you
that's
go to Fleming's. You go to Fleming's Steakhouse and you give them a deal on tartar sauce. Like, what the hell are they going to do with it?
That's one of the things I'm happy about with some of the reps that we got to deal with, that we interact with here in Texas, is like Rojas. I mean, he's very accessible, and he loves to tell you about his blends, and he talks about other cigars and whatnot, and he just he loves that interaction. The other one, Eric Espinosa's rep out here, Tony Gomez, Big Tony, another guy, great guy. You know, you see him all the time. He's always out there. He's talking Espinosa, 101. Is it Jack Torano? Is that how you say it? Or Torano? Yeah, he's another. Yeah, he's another guy, and it's great to see this, camaraderie between the reps, customers, and they really appreciate that. And you talk about brand loyalty, you gain that, through those small segment times while you're at the lounge, and you forever have, and these guys don't have to give away swag I mean, their product speaks for itself, and that's the other great thing about it. They don't have to do anything but just keep producing great products, um, and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to pitch something for a future show because I don't think we can unpack it here. But we should have a segment just about boutique cigars, because I was thinking about the difference between like an Oliva or even an Alec Bradley, like here locally. Like I just told my story about how the rep was great and he engages with the customers, right? But that probably doesn't happen everywhere across the country, right? But the one thing I notice with the boutique cigars is they have a huge presence, like a social media presence, and they're accessible, right? Like the only way I could contact Oliva is emailing their corporate site, right? And emailing them, or maybe through the rep if I know them, right?
Right.
Whereas I can message Steve Saka, I can message Noel Rojas, I can message Stolen Throne, right? There's a difference that we've never really talked about between the boutique cigar business and the bigger sharks in the cigar sea, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good segment to just talk about and unpack that.
It would be a good segment. But there are a lot of retailers who are their comments, not mine, are we've tried that once before. Why is it going to be different? Because any boutique can make 100,000 cigars. The big question is, can they make 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
And can it still be good? So from the retailer's perspective, their doors getting banged on by solicitors all the time. And it's like, okay, this is the latest and greatest, and this is awesome. Okay, how many, we're a brand new boutique brand, this is what we're doing, this and that. Okay, you can make 100,000 cigars, and they're good, and people like them. But can you make 500,000 cigars and have them be just as good? Can you make 1 million cigars? I know you're going into the argument, well, they're not boutique anymore, ish, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do they want to?
But maybe the business model is not to make 1 million cigars. Maybe it's just to make freaking good. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, a great example of that is the Ezra Zions you've turned me on to. They don't have reps. They're available on that dude's site or whatever, right? Am I wrong?
They keep expanding where they sell them. They keep expanding.
And those guys are here
where they sell them,
but they're not making more. So that's really interesting, Joe.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting a little off topic, but I didn't even think of that. You just hit on something really interesting, which is, well, I don't want to go into the whole Ezra Zion, but they do micro batches, and they're not expanding the number of sticks they make. They're just expanding the access to them, right? Which is interesting. I don't know why that is, right? I mean, I don't know what their business model is.
The business model, right? It's based on a business model. They either don't have access to keep the same brand and grow it, so they're always morphing into that. But the thing is, regardless of who you are, you have to be sure of who you are. And once you know who you are, then you can be who you are. And there's nothing more annoying than someone trying to be who they're not. And I think consumers can pick that up very quickly, right away.
That's an excellent point. And since I discovered, I mean, this is not the Ezra Zion show, but since I discovered them, Joe's hit it on the head. They stay true to who they are. They're a micro batch company. I think 2 to 3 times a month, they release their micro batches, and you either get them or you don't. You jump in. Some are under 300, some under 500, but that's it. That's all they make. And then the next month there's more. And they're gaining traction 100%. People are starting to discover them more. I'm seeing bigger online retailers start to sell their products. They're catching attention. And perhaps to Joe's point, it's a lot because they stay true to who they are. They didn't try to be that 500,000 stick company. They're the micro batch company. They're
Whether they have
boutique.
access to the tobacco or not, that's their business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But because you could argue, oh well, they just don't have access to big tobacco, so they just kind of do what they do, and that's I don't want them in my shop. That could be a retailer's argument. But another retailer's argument is, man, I really need these. These freaking things fly off the shelves. Which would you rather have? 200 or something that flies off the shelf, or relating to the article, buying 20 boxes because you bought 2 months in advance, got the deal, and they're still sitting on the shelf. There you go.
There you go.
Drew,
Exactly.
last point. We'll go Nelson last point. We'll do Joe last point, and we'll wrap up the segment.
All right.
Go ahead, Drew.
Last point. Well, again, teeing off from what you were saying right now, it's just a matter of being really engaged with what's going on in your surrounding communities. For like I said, for us, it's about, as we tell other people, you do you, we do us. We don't change. We're about quality experience and whatnot, and so we want everybody that when they come through those doors to be able to have that experience, and we do that by focusing on the relations with our cigar reps, our customers, and and just make it a point that education and making sure that our employees are on point all the time.
Cool. Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep repeating, with regards to the article, I think obviously it had some valid points, to me, obvious points in a lot of cases. I think where it was lacking was the engagement. I mean, in my opinion, engagement builds loyalty and deals with all the other pieces that you have to worry about, right? You want to build that loyalty. And whether that's a newsletter or you sponsor events outside the shop, whatever it is, build that engagement and you will have loyalty and you will have customers and revenue.
There you go. My advice is pretty simple. For any retailer listening and wants to get creative, email me at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. We'll help you out. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, sticks of the week and some news. We'll be right back.
All right.